For the first talk in the morning, or the panel you might have seen, it's about the e-commerce retail takeover and what a virtual hospital can learn from it. And to do so, I said the first exercise, we do a reference case. For this, I need your participation as well. So may I ask each and everybody in the room to please stand up. Please stand up. It's energizing as well. It's early in the morning. Stand up. Because the first question is e-commerce retail takeover. And here's the question. Did you by today, do business with the e-commerce retailer? And not by anyone. I did bring the 5 global top e-commerce retailers. And whenever you did do business with them, it means you did shop with those guys. You may sit. If you didn't shop with them, please remain standing. And we will see how this plays out. So the first one, number 5 from Japan, Rakuten. Whoever did purchase something with Rakuten, please sit down. If not, remain standing. Turnover 2016, $7 billion US. Number 4 from the US, eBay. Revenue 2017, a little bit short of $10 billion US. Number 3 now, China. Alibaba. And my local colleagues, if you don't know Alibaba, you might know them because they purchased recently something that's called Lazada, which is the number 1 here in the region, thanks to Philip. Philip, you're out there, thanks for this. So if you purchased with those guys, please sit down. 41 billion global turnover, Alibaba. Number 2 globally, from China as well, JD. And I see still like a few individuals remaining standing. Here's the global number 1 from the US, Amazon. 120 billion turnover last year. So I do see, maybe I'm not sure how many, is it like 20 individuals who did not yet shop online? I need to go into therapy with you because I did shop with all of those 5 beforehand. So maybe you can help me in like removing the shopping experience. Having said so, 120, it's the global number 1. Who is the global number 1 retailer overall? It's in America, very well, over there, Walmart, 500 billion, so it's 4 times larger than Amazon today. 15 years ago, Amazon, which is now globally the number 6 retailer, only online number 6. 15 years ago, it was something like 160. So in 15 years' time, it became from 160 to something virtually everybody of us had contact with. Regularly, not regularly, we don't know yet, but we have contact with it. Is it something that's, are we a select sample? Is it relevant outside of this room as well? Yes, it is. If you look into the entire market, if it's China, if it's the US, if it's Japan, South Korea, Europe, it's all over the place. And will it stop? Will it tomorrow be gone? No, it won't. It grows by 19% annually. For 2021, it's 4.5 trillion US dollar. It's a big market. Back to our topic. Now, who did shop with the hospital, with the tertiary care provider of his or her choice online? If you, and now we do it the other way around, if anybody of you acquired healthcare services from a tertiary provider online, please wave like massively. Anybody? 1? Anybody else? 2? Did you acquire it from a primary care provider, like dermatology, looking into some spots of the skin? Anybody else? So 2. Currently 2 individuals only. Think about what could happen in 15 years. And I didn't bring the examples because this is where our panelists will now come to stage and will share their experience if they are prepared and if what happened in retail, 15 years, number 160 to number 6, if this could be the same case. Or in other words, if I, as a German citizen living in Germany, could purchase healthcare with you in Thailand, in Malaysia, in India, in China in the future as well, as I did do business with Alibaba, with JD, or with American companies. That's the topic. Before I introduce the first speaker, One commercial slide from Siemens Healthineers, because why I am here as an employee from Siemens Healthineers. In our mission, we have 4 value promises which we want to enable our customers, healthcare providers with. And one of those missions, the transforming care delivery, speaks exactly to this topic. A change, it's only part of it, but providing better access to care. Virtual access is one of those. And the digitalizing healthcare combines all of this together. That's the reason for me being here. And now may I invite the very first speaker, and I'm a bit humbled, Dr. Chamaree, please join us here. The entire career I will not be able to sum up, but recently she stepped down before and she was the president of here, the Thai Radiology Society. She's one of only 2 members in ASEAN who's honorably member of the RSNA, the Radiology Society of Northern America. And currently she's the COO of here, a Thai business, which is called CP, which is, for example, owning the 7-Eleven outlets here in Thailand. So excellent for retail. Dr. Chamaree, stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have my slide, please? Okay, I'm coming from the CP Group, one of the largest conglomerate group in Thailand. We have around 300,000 employees for the whole group. CP Group owns retails, food business, telecom, and agriculture business. Healthcare for CP Group, it's kind of a startup, so we are a very small group, but we know that healthcare is going to be a huge business in the future. So how are we going to work with a hospital and also leverage the asset of the CP Group that we already have? As we are a startup, so we're looking to many thoughts, and I would like to share a few of our thoughts that we're preparing for the future. We are now on the process of building a tertiary care hospital, but not a big one. Someone say we're going to build 2,000 beds hospital. That's too much. Okay, let me bring you to some of our thoughts in this category of the hospital with our walls and what we learned from the e-commerce retail and prepare ourselves for a future hospital. If you look into the World Economic Forum that started the Digital Transformation Initiative since the year 2015, they have come out with the report on in January 2016 about the building the digital healthcare system for the future. And there's around 14 scenarios that has come up as a future healthcare scenarios. You may not be able to see it, but let's bring a few of the points that in the digital initiative from World Economic Forum has come up with the report. One is the scenario of continuous monitoring. One is retail clinics. Me and my data, connecting home, connecting care, virtual care team, and intelligent treatments. The continuous monitoring is something that we have seen right now in the real world. Retail clinics, yes, we're looking to that, how we're going to leverage our retail store into some kind of a retail clinics. Me and my data is something about lifelong personal health record that ourselves can actually access every single health data that we have. Connecting home is something kind of a smart home, and connecting care is integrated care for everyone that across the entire healthcare system. Virtual care team, I will touch about that a bit. And intelligent treatment for future scenario is something that you got the treatment and the outcome will come back and improve the way the healthcare system give you. So this is part of the scenario that has been proposed by the World Economic Forum. Another 4 digital themes that include in the report is the smart care, care anywhere, empowered care, and intelligent health enterprise. I would like to touch only on the care anywhere because of the time limited. Right now, on the current healthcare landscape, from home to community to primary, secondary care center to tertiary care center, we start to get the health data or initiate the health data at the level of primary and secondary care. Usually the tertiary care hospital will not get any data from home or from community, but from from secondary or primary care that refer the patients to them. But what happens if care anywhere happen in the future and healthcare move closer to the home? One of the example of healthcare closer to the home is one of the famous example is the Minute Clinics in the US. It started in the year 2000, and right now it has over 1,000 locations in the US. It's belong to the CVS Health, which is the group that's the largest pharmacy company. The Minute Clinics is everywhere, 33 states, and 95% customer satisfaction rate of 20 million patients that has been treated, and is the first retail healthcare that has received the Joint Commission accreditation, which means that the quality also is there as well. They have many kind of services in the Minutes Clinic, minor illness, screening, vaccination, wellness, and physical treatment. It also located inside the pharmacy store itself and some of the Target, which is the retail store, and open 7 days a week, evening, weekends. No appointments are needed, and also accept insurance plan. This is example of healthcare closing to the home. Another example that I have seen a few weeks ago when I visit Taipei, this is a smart vital sign station. It just started from the local company in Taiwan. Okay. It's in Taipei 7-Eleven. In Taipei, CP Group doesn't own the 7-Eleven. This is another group. But it's already there, and it starts to give the services that you can just get in, put your national ID, you get all the measurement, the height, the body weight, blood pressure, and anything, and it can store the information in the car with all the privacy and everything. So it's already started. It's moving to the retail that next to your home. Then retail and teach healthcare in terms of digital strategy. What is it? This is from Harvard Business Review earlier this year. It's clear that, okay, we should learn how we're going to offer easy digital front-end experience to the customer. But why the people go to the retail store? It's convenient. That's why we call it convenience store. So patient's convenience is one of the most important, including the experience. It improves the access. And one of the potential good things is that it moves more routine visit out of the office. So actually the provider can see new and more complex patients in person. The problem is what's next? The question from our moderators, starting with the e-commerce. Okay. So retail, what happened to a retail store? If you move the retail clinics close to home, what will replace it? Or what will be the challenge? Okay, yes, online shopping. All the retail have problem with online shopping. So the retail clinics will have problem with online clinics. Do we have that? Yes. Example from our home friends from Singapore already create what we call virtual care, remove all the retail clinics and direct the patients to the tertiary care itself, which is telehealth. In Singapore, if you go to the Smart Nation website, integrated healthcare service from home to a specialist. The example from Singapore is an elderly monitoring system. which put the sensor in the elderly home who live alone, and that can monitor the activities and to make sure that they keep healthy and not fall down. Vital sign monitoring from the patient that has problem. Also the tele-rehabilitation and video conference that proved to have more compliance of the patient. So this is an example of online shopping instead of the retail clinics. In Thailand, in 2016, we have what we call Dr. Raksa. Raksa means treatment. So the doctor is online, affordable. You can use your mobile phone, put on the app, and then you can call the doctors, pay around 100, 200 bahts, and have a first line consultation without going to even the clinics, the retail, or the hospital. So this is complied with the prediction from Forbes earlier this year that the healthcare top 8 predictions, home monitoring platform and home care service will generate over $500 million in 2018. Okay. So for the new healthcare landscape, we need to deal with the non-traditional health services, retail telehealth, we need to deal with the high-tech industry, telecom business, retail business, pharmaceutical business, consumer product and everything. So the data that's going to start, it's not from the primary care. It's going to start from home. This is when healthcare moves closer to home or into the home itself. So the new hospital will challenge with the new data sources. We have genomics. We have the data from wearable device. We have the data from continuous monitoring. We have the data from social determinants, like the WHO has mentioned. We have more unstructured, and we need to prepare for information exchange. So the key in the future for e-commerce is patient-centered data exchange. We need to make sure that we capture all the data, and we will break the wall and become one from home to tertiary care. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. For you in the audience, we keep the questions to the very end. So please, if you have questions to our speakers and panelists, we will reserve time at the very end. Thanks, Dr. Chamaree. Second in line is now coming from Thailand. We switched to Malaysia, and they're from Prince Court Medical Center. It's Dr. Kuljit. He's the medical director of his facility, as well as the president of the Private Hospital Association of Malaysia. And we agreed on revealing one fun fact. His hospital, his facility is totally virtual. So there's no paper whatsoever. There's only one exception in the restrooms.
Thank you. It's interesting to note that the moderator had a very good exercise just now to show how many of us here are so engaged with e-commerce and everything else in our life, but we personally do not use it as healthcare providers when it comes to healthcare. There's so much out there among patients and also among us, doctors. We have mobile phones in our pockets. I personally carry 2. And I've got an Apple, I've got a Samsung. I'm well connected. Then I have a Samsung watch. And it was interesting to note that Apple has come out with something even more interesting 2 days ago, that you can do your ECG, 1-lead ECG, on your phone. And over a period of time, the patient will know what kind of heart data that you can collect and show it to your general practitioner or to your cardiologist. It is interesting, but it's also quite dangerous because there could be false negative and false positive, and that can sometimes lead to panic, or sometimes it may not lead to any panic. But anyway, leaving that aside, e-commerce in healthcare, we are actually ready. Infrastructure is already there. It is just that we have to look whether the acceptability on the healthcare providers and also on the patient to utilize it, and how much we are going to utilize it in order to make full use of what we already have. Now, in a hospital like mine, we already have this interaction using the electronic method, especially patients who are very far out on an oil rig, far away in the sea. We already communicate and they already buy our services through such consultation. But the man in the street, they are not used to it, they don't understand. They would rather meet the doctor face to face, give their samples with interaction with the healthcare provider. Now, we have got systems where we have third-party providers who can actually help you to grab a doctor. You know Grab car, you know Uber. Now today we also have Grab a doctor. You're sitting here, I'm an ENT specialist, and suddenly you have ear pain right now in Thailand, and you are probably coming from Germany. You do not know anyone in Thailand. And how do you see a doctor immediately in the next 1 hour? You go onto the portal, and the portal will tell you which is the nearest available ENT doctor available for you to see. You click on it, they will tell you exactly when the next appointment is available. You schedule it, and they even get a Grab car ready for you to pick you at this destination and take you to that particular hospital. Now the question is, he's from Germany, he has got no choice, and he has got ear pain, and he cannot do anything. He wants the pain to go because he's going to moderate a session. But will a patient who is not in his situation use that particular system? He would rather find out, look around, ask his friends, and find out whether the doctor is good. You just can't grab a doctor in that manner. So the mind setting to change, to use this kind of devices, this kind of e-commerce, might take some time because healthcare is very personal. It takes a long time for you to accept that I'm going to see a doctor that I do not know. I'm going to go to a hospital that it is there online, but am I going to go there or not? And I asked Herbert whether is it popular in the Western world, and he told me that it's the same, that it has not picked up as much as we thought it should. Now, as a referring doctor, if I would want to refer a patient, will I be comfortable to use these portals? Am I comfortable to send images, blood results to a doctor just using the media, electronic media? And as a receiving doctor, am I just comfortable to make a decision without seeing the patient, just looking at scans, just looking at images, blood tests, listening to the heartbeat, and then deciding whether I should accept the patient? The patient would be pretty critical beyond what I can see on the media. So that would be a constraint which may take some time to catch on. But it will be ideal that if I would want to just do screening, I just send my pulse to the doctor, take an x-ray, send the doctor, and then you tell me whether I'm fit or not. Whether that kind of acceptability will pick up in the future, we have to wait and see. We have to take small steps, a lot of education, both on the patient and also on the doctor's side, to accept this kind of relationship. I think worldwide we have got the infrastructure. It's just a confidence that we need to build. And in small steps, if you take, I'm sure it will be achievable. Will it be 10 years? Will it be 15 years? Will it be 20 years? We are not sure. So I think the previous speaker had given detailed outline of what we are looking at. And we as healthcare providers, we should start probably initiating such kind of education to our patients, and so that some of it can be done. Some of the treatment can actually start from homes and only come to the hospital when hospital care is necessary, not when it is complicated and the patient is so sick and then only reach the hospital. Not in that manner, but you can do a lot of your testing even before the patient reaches the hospital, and that is probably the way forward. I think with that, that's all that I would want to share with you, and probably we can have another 3 more minutes for the next speaker to speak. Thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Kuljit, thanks very much. Turning now to Indonesia. Budi, may I invite you to the stage as well? He's the CFO of Siloam Hospital Group in Indonesia. And the one fun fact, his mother is a medical doctor, and he early on in his career decided not to become a medical doctor and not to join healthcare at all. So what he did is he became a chemical engineer to really play safe, and now you see as a chemical engineer becoming the CFO of a hospital chain if he succeeded in omitting healthcare or not. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. It's an honor for me to be able to stand here and to speak to this forum. This is my second time to join this forum. I joined this forum also last year in Manila, and it's a pleasure for me to see that so many healthcare practitioners here spending time and discussing on the healthcare. We see that the rise of healthcare demand in the Southeast Asia and also in Indonesia is very, very, very big. We see the development of the government support as well throughout the Southeast Asian countries for the healthcare. So I would like to share how Siloam Hospitals Group, as part of the Lipo Group, a property player, a consumer retail player in Indonesia, healthcare and education player as well, has tried to come to the digital grapple. We've seen the growth of e-commerce everywhere. How do we, in the healthcare, will be disrupted next? But before that, I would like to share a little bit on how our group has grown. We have grown quite for the last 15 years through development of our own hospitals, but also as well from the acquisition of other hospitals. As we all know, when we acquire new hospitals, there are challenges. Challenges typically in the form of the system, of the hospital information system, HIS, of the ERP systems, of the different ways to do things. And most of the time, these issues are the backbone of the IT systems are not surfaced when we talk about e-commerce or we talk about more of the front-end applications in dealing with the customers. Before we try to be able to solve the front-end application to the customers, we also need to see how we can improve our back-end so that we can ensure that the smooth operations will enable us to give the best and the best service to our customers. So right now we are developing our own hospital information system, linking to one single source of truth for all 30 hospitals, 34 hospitals actually that we are running right at this moment. After that, we will see that the next improvement from the healthcare is the implementation of the electronic medical record. Some of us are coming from the medical background. I'm not from the medical background. I'm more on the financial background. Knows what's the importance of the medical record. How we can link medical record with actionable and right diagnostics and actions to be taken by the clinicians. So before we can say and move to the, we can have contact with patients with using telemedicine and so on, we need to be sure that in our back end, our medical record is clean, is actionable, we have active data rather than just passive data. We need to be ensured that we have digital imaging that can be sent across all of our network of hospitals, read by all the doctors that are of that needs for that. So we think that let's focus on the back end before we move to the front end. Then we also see that next phase for our development is the development of the teleradiology. When we grow throughout Indonesia, we see in remote areas of Indonesia a lack of radiologists. Dr. Chamaree is head of the radiologists in Thailand, and I'm very impressed of that. We developed a teleradiology in collaboration with a group in India called the Columbia Asia Radiology Group to enable us to moderate the reading of our radiologists. So that's the next step after we try to implement the improvement in the back end. Then we see how we move forward with the digitalization in the operation of our hospitals. Then after that, we move forward one step to the more of the customer-facing, the patient-facing applications, such as the application for the doctor's appointment, application for teleconsultations, how patient can log into the applications and book appointments with our doctors with in a certain hospital, in a certain specialty groups, and so on. Then we also see how we can digitalize all of our services, for example, in lab, in the centralized diagnostic center, or in the centralized lab. I would also like to share one thing. Recently, the Indonesian Doctors Associations have come up with guidance or a reference book on Indonesian telemedicine recommendations. In that book, the Indonesian Doctor Associations gave some categorization of different type of a telemedicine. The first is a tele-expertise. Tele-expertise is where we use technology to enable doctors to collaborate with fellow doctors, even across specialty groups, to be able to learn from each other and to be able to share on a certain specific or maybe complex cases. For example, I believe that you've heard a company called Docquity is a startup in Singapore that has already linked with some of the doctors in Southeast Asia, I believe some in Indonesia as well. They are trying to build a doctors forum, a doctors community forum, to be able to share knowledge on a confidential basis for cases. The next category is what we call and what we know of Dr. Raksa in Thailand, of HelloDoc and AlloDoctor in Indonesia, which is a teleconsultation. This is maybe much more popular compared to the previous one because this is directly a customer facing. Patients can immediately tap into their applications and ask for doctor's appointment in a certain hospitals. The next one is what we call as tele-monitoring. As described by the previous speakers as well. Telemonitoring involves where a patient can monitor the vital signs of their bodies, for example, the brain waves, for example, the heartbeat, to be able to know exactly what happened in their bodies, and to have eventually preventive healthcare systems. With the development of the hospitals that is so fast, we should be always thinking of, is it right for us to build new hospitals? Or actually, I would like for us to go back to the first question that we discussed and heard from Paul Wilson yesterday. Are we overbuilding, or actually we should build the right system for the healthcare in the future? So we believe that the right system for the healthcare in the future is in the preventive healthcare. We all do not want to be admitted to the hospitals. Yes, we're working in the healthcare, but none of us actually wants to go into the hospital and get sick and hospitalized, right? So rather than trying to build more hospitals, yes, maybe in some areas that are still needed hospitals, we may want to see it and the other way around, how we can prevent ourselves from getting into the hospitals. The next one in this category of telemedicine, we have what we call the teleassistance. Teleassistance comes when after the patient is discharged from the hospital for the post-care, for example, for rehabilitation or for certain monitoring, and they can contact the doctors immediately without the need of coming back to the hospitals. And the doctors can get some certain data that's relevant for the treatment or post-treatment scenarios that will help them to give a tele-assistance to the patients. This is something that we may have not seen, I have not seen myself, but we believe that this is another category where the technology can help us. And the last but not least, what we have learned and we have seen as well is the telerobotic. How we can operate, doctors from a different area, different location can operate or do some surgery or do some procedures for a patient in the different hospitals using a robotic guided by technology. So, but after we know all this and we try to see how the impact of the digitalization in the healthcare, we need to see what's the final and the main objectives eventually. Yesterday, we discussed about the value-based healthcare. We have the equations of that value equals to quality divided by cost. We learned it from Dr. Keith Lim yesterday. With the digitalization, there is one parameter that we can be adding into these equations, which is access. As you see, e-commerce, from the finance background, e-commerce company are not valued similar to the other businesses. In the normal business, how do we value their worth? It's as simple as multiples of EBITDA, right? But e-commerce company, they have very high valuation with very low EBITDA or even negative EBITDA. How come this happen? Because they have a different measurement, and that measurement comes to access. So I'm thinking that in the future, the value of the healthcare It's V equals to access times quality divided by cost. So that's something that we will need to think in the future as well. But discussing all of this, of course, there are a lot of challenges that we need to seek through. First of all, of course, in the technology itself, how we can grapple with the technology, how we can ensure that our technology is really creating the benefit for us and creating what is the design. But the second thing is also, with all the technology comes up the security of the data. We have learned issues elsewhere from the other industry where data leakage. I think our neighboring countries here, we have one issue with the health data leakage as well. So that's a challenge that we need to be able to grapple with. The next one is also the challenge on the human and practitioner, and this is the most difficult thing. When we try to transform and move forward, how can we envision our healthcare practitioner to be able to go along with us, to be willing to accept this change and to move together with us. In many countries, doctors are the most difficult people to follow the new technology. I'm very sorry if I offended doctors here, but that's what I experienced in my own country and dealing with some of our doctors as well. And then from the human practitioners, we also have an issue on medical legal. When it comes to malpractice, when it comes to wrong diagnostic, when it comes to all the nasty things, then how would this new telemedicine can be got the accountability for? How can we put that into the system? How can we have the legal system that will protect the patient as well, given that they have this long-distance service and so on? And last but not least, we all know that regulation in the different countries are quite different. And some are pro-technology, some are quite against to a certain use of technology. Then how can we knowing that though with this technology development, when we have telemedicine, it's a cross-border issue. It's a cross-border services that we may be able to receive from other countries. How can we have services from countries that they have a different regulation on these kind of practices? So I would like to end with one quote. I don't know if any of you have ever watched the series of Battlestar Galactica. In the Battlestar Galactica, the story is that human has been so advanced that human has created robots. And eventually there's a fight between this so-called artificial intelligence and robots with the human themselves. There's a quote from one of the antagonist robot by the end of the movies. I don't want to be a human. I want to see gamma rays, I want to hear X-rays, and I want to smell dark matters. Eventually, we need to see from the perspective of our customers that they want to know everything about their body. And that's where the technology will be able to enable them to do that. Thank you.
So thanks very much. And as promised, we did reserve, after the talks from our speakers, time for you, for your questions or for your experiences from your country. So let me first look out. Anybody who has a question and wants to get involved? Down here, I think. If we could have a microphone. The gentleman here to the middle.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Thulawat from Veterinary Hospital. As we all know that healthcare have to learn from other industry, and when CP Group Thailand talk about, hospital without border, hospital without walls, so it's very interesting. So my question is, what do you think is the key challenges, and how you plan to cope up with that challenge?
It was very hard to understand, sorry about that.
Okay, so what are the key challenges to set up hospital without wall?
So what are the key challenges to set up a hospital without wall, if I got you right?
Yes, and
is it to someone specifically or to all of them?
Yes, Dr. Chamaree, please.
Dr. Chamaree.
And how you plan to come up with those challenges?
Yes, thank you for the questions. The key challenge, actually I agree with our last speaker that the law and regulation is something is a very key challenge. We have made a number of startups in technology, especially in healthcare technology. And actually, there's the uncertainty of all this technology. Because if there is nothing in the law that say no, it doesn't mean yes. Right? If the startup technology or even like a telehealth from the retail store become viral, will that be end up the regulation that make everything illegal in the future? We have no idea. So the way our strategy is that, okay, we try to follow the law as regulation as much as possible. And in the term of the policy makers, you need to actually get into the high level policy and try to inform them that we need better law and regulation or change certain law and regulation to enhance the business in the country, especially in the Thailand 4.0. I have learned that over 1,000 of rule regulation need to be changed. But at the speed of this change, I'm not sure that we may go Thailand 6.0 without changing anything.
Thanks a lot. The gentleman here in the middle now.
Yeah,
And if someone else has a question, just raise your hand, because then we can get the microphone to you in time already.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Eric Dordenbeck from the International Hospital Federation. Very interesting discussions. This topic is a little more complex that we touch on it. And I was just first with the last comment that was made by the last presenters talking about the importance of primary care, to remember us that yesterday was a big anniversary. It was the celebration of 40th anniversary of Alma-Ata, primary healthcare. So where are we moving now? As we'll have another panel with the chronic condition and aging population, I think when we are talking about, e-services, and the last person mentioned that very well, we should not confuse what is the transaction we are doing when we are purchasing a good, and the 5 companies that you presented up front were for purchasing goods, and where we are looking for something that is more complex, that we usually call a service, that is over time, and healthcare is mostly a service. And therefore, there's probably some potentials with the example that you gave around people who are on mobility. But, when you are in your environment, usually we prefer to have a long-lasting relation when it is about her health. And that's why it's so important, and that's why WHO and everybody is trying to promote the importance of family medicine, which means that to take care of your health, you need to have interaction with professionals who know you, who knows your history, and even though if you have an electronic record, to capture all this information, for somebody who has never had any interaction with you, it's very complicated. So if you have chronic conditions, it's very important. So that's one element which I believe will certainly have a very important, will be driving very much the evolution. Question for the panelists. When we are talking about e-commerce, the examples that were given were around retail. Don't you think that we should rather look what services that have been doing, and one industry that has been very good in doing e-commerce without giving up his business is the banking industry. So in the healthcare, shouldn't we rather looking what the banking industry has been doing to figure out how we can move forward than rather the retailing industry?
If I may, I would like to integrate, because we are coming to an end of this panel, the question into a second one, and like one last sentence from all of you. Banking industry might be something to look at, but if you speak for your individual enterprise, what is in one sentence the status you currently have with regards to e-health, e-commerce? Would you say, hey, you are like a laggard waiting up for what it develops, what happens with the regulation? Or do you say, no, I'm an innovator, I want to drive it, and maybe utilize AI, what you had as well, knowing the family history, etc. Yesterday we heard about AI, which might be helpful in this context. How would you describe your stance? And maybe that would be then the final sentence from you to close the panel thereafter as well. And as you wish, maybe Dr. Chamaree, you want to start?
Only one sentence? Okay. Yes, the technology is here. The opportunities here, why not? But I think we need to also see the country's rule and regulation. We need to change. The generation shift is coming. We look into technology with baby boomer, which is not true in the next 20 years. Gen Y is coming. They end up using anything without manuals. So why not? Because the future is there.
I think the most important thing in e-commerce, in healthcare, would be trust. The trust is very important, and we have to gain the trust and confidence that e-commerce in health is useful and it will be precise. If once the trust is built, I think then just like we buy stuff otherwise without any, we go to eBay and Amazon, we have a trust that we know that product will be delivered to your doorstep because we have a trust. I think we need to build that up.
Thank you. From my personal view is that we know that the technology is coming, we know that the disruption is coming. Shouldn't we trying to disrupt ourselves rather than waiting for others to disrupt us? Thank you.
So first of all, thanks very much for our presenters, and let's please give them a round of applause. Maybe 2 sentences to sum it up, and I think it was already done, right? There is the preparation, technology we heard is there. There might be the way over the retail outlets with 7-Up, what we heard from Dr. Chamaree, or the confidence once the patients want to have it. It might be quite similar to Amazon, and now is the time for us to decide, as we just heard, do we want to take an active stance on it, or be a little bit lagging behind? So thanks.